Hey guys, Frank here and welcome to a new episode of Digital Classroom. Now, the first thing I always try to explain is, what is Digital Classroom? What is it? Well, Digital Classroom is digital and it is a classroom. Sounds obvious, right? So what exactly is it? Well, I teach a lot of workshops. We do 2 workshops a week and we do a lot of location workshops, and one thing that I love about workshops is that one-on-one interaction with my students. So everybody who visited the workshop, we work in small groups and we really talk to each other. So it's that really one-on-one experience. But we also do a lot of instructional videos, and those are awesome. You can rewind, you can see whatever I did, and you get a lot of information about retouching, shooting on location, how to use a light meter. We have plenty of those. But there's nothing in between. There's not something like, well, that you can see me live and you can interact. And this is exactly what Digital Classroom is. You can interact with us. If you look up, down, left, right, whatever, I don't know where you see it on your screen, but there's something called a chat box. And in that chat box you can ask questions. So during the live shoot, you can ask me whatever you want. Well, don't talk about the iPad Pro versus the Surface, please. Don't ask me what kind of underwear I'm wearing. So, any question photography related or retouching is no problem at all. I will try to answer them all during the broadcast, but sometimes it's a little bit busy during the broadcast and I have a lot of stuff going on. So sometimes I don't have time for the questions, but I will do them later on then. So you can always use Twitter, Facebook, Google+, or whatever to ask the questions. Now, of course, it's very important that something like this is made possible. And I would like to thank very much the guys from BenQ and Rogue Expo Imaging, because those guys make it possible for you guys to watch Digital Classroom 100% free of charge, without any costs, without conveniences, whatever the term is, it doesn't cost you anything. That's cool, right? So check out BenQ and Rogue. So today I have something really special planned, and I don't remember what. What was it? Big flash, small flash, studio strobes? Small flash, or in other case, speed lights. The magic of the small strobe. Now, one of the things that a lot of people ask me, like, what do you use on location? Well, of course we use the Quadras, the Rangers, and everything that I can use, as long as it gives light, right? But one of the things that I love to use is small flash. And a lot of people don't know me from small flash because they always see me with the big strobes. And there's a reason for that. Normally, when we shoot on locations, we can travel with the big strobes. But my personal stuff, and sometimes even with models, I love to shoot that small flash for the very simple reason. You put them in your bag, you get 1 or 2 modifiers with it, and it all fits in one little travelable bag. And that's awesome. But what can you do with those strobes? Well, these 2 hours are all about what you can do with small flash. So I'm going to ask Anna Week to give me the bare one with small flash, Anna Week. That's the one all the way in the back. So I will show you guys what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some tips also. So Daisy, Lieselot, if you want to zoom in on this. So Lieselot is going to zoom in on the back of the strobe. Let me see if that works. There we go. That's awesome. And Anna Week, of course, is zooming in on me. Now, one of the things that you see a lot of people do is, how do you connect these small strobes to, for example, your stand? Now, there are some hot shoe adapters, but the only problem with the hot shoe adapters is sometimes your strobes fall off. And we've seen that a lot of times happening also during workshops. So this is actually why we use this. These are the feet that you actually get delivered with your small strobe, in my case the Photics. Now, make sure that you always lock your strobe. So if it's like this, it will fall out very, very easily, as you can see here. You just slide it in. And I'm nervous, of course. You slide it in, you tilt it over, and boom, it falls out. You see that? And you break your strobe. So you don't want to do that. So slide it in, and make sure you use the locking mechanism until it clicks. Now, as soon as it clicks, it's pretty tight. And now you can move around. Now, the main advantage of this one is, if I tilt it all the way forward, it won't fall off, for the very simple reason there's a barrier here. And when you use those other devices, there's no barrier in the front, so it just slides out and it falls on the ground. And I don't want to tell you how it sounds if a small flash hits the ground. Right, Ulf? I don't know if Ulf is watching, but during the last workshop, small flash, it fell down, and you know that feeling when you hear it in slow motion, you go like, no! whoa, boom, and it fell on the ground, and there was only one puddle of water, and it slowly rolled into the puddle of water. It wanted to swim. So I think Ulf is now going to buy one of these, and they're pretty cheap. They're actually delivered with your strobe, so a lot of people already have them. Now, how do you set up your small strobe? Well, the first thing you have to realize is you have to turn it on. That helps enormously for working with them. So let's turn it on. Now, on the small strobes, you actually have groups and channels. Now, in my case, I'm on channel 1, group A. Now, what does that mean? Annevi, can you give me the remote control, please? So, we have different channels and different groups. Now, one of the nice things about channels and groups is that you can use different strobes. For example, you can use 3 different strobes. Channel 1 will be, of course, the channel in which you're operating. So that will be my remote control. Now, let's say Anneweek also has a remote control. Anneweek can, for example, use channel 2. And Ingrid, our model for today, can use channel 3. Now we also have, of course, the groups. Anneweek, can you give me the remote? Thank you very much. Now, on the remote, you have exactly the same setting. So when you're starting up, make sure that you're in the same channel. Now, if you're on the same channel, that actually means that the strobes and the remote control talk to each other. They understand each other, so that's pretty cool. Now, within the remote control, you also see here 3 groups, A, B, and C. Now, those groups you can set separately. For example, you can set one group for ETTL, the other group for manual, and you can just play around with those settings. What you do have to remember is if you put a strobe in manual mode on group A, and another strobe on manual, and they're in the same group, that can be a little bit confusing. So don't do that. So make sure that if you have a group A, that's ETTL. For starters, let's set everything on ETTL. If you have a group B, there you put everything on manual. And if you have a group C, if you need one, ETTL or manual, doesn't matter. So these two talk together. Now, in the old days, still for some guys, you have to use line of sight, meaning this one has to see this one. And if I hold it here and I press test, nothing will happen. It will be totally dark. There will be no strobes. Now, outside, that can be a real problem. Let's say you have bright sunlight and you have 2 strobes or 3 strobes, and it doesn't work because there's a line of sight and the sun is interfering. It's not a very nice solution. Now, this is a radio trigger, and radio trigger means that we don't use line of sight, but we actually use radio signals. And this is pretty cool because now it doesn't matter how far away you are. Well, don't go to 600 meters away, but anyway, who has their strobes on 600 meters distance? That's ridiculous. So let's say you are 50 meters away or 10 meters away. Now these strobes will actually be triggered by the radio. So that is very, very handy, and it will save you a lot of worries about did that strobe fire. Of course, there's still a test button. So first it will give a little bit of a strobe. So let me turn this to Anneweek so you guys can see. Now this is unique for the Forex system. Every system will work a little bit differently. But if I test, you will actually first see a small flash and then you will see the big one. Now let me put that big one on full power, the first one. The second one. So I go to my menu and I go to 100%, full power, and I will do test. Now watch this, first the small one, and there you have the big one. Now why is that? Well, very simple. They incorporated this because they wanted to make sure that if you press the test button, you saw that all the strobes work. So first group A, then group B, then group C. I use a light meter, and I wanted to use my strobes in manual mode with a light meter. The problem I experienced was that whatever I metered, it was always 2.0. It didn't matter what I set the strobes to, was always 2.0. And then they told me, yeah, we only use a test flash. And they actually created new firmware for Nikon, Canon, and of course Sony. And this is a while ago, but if you still didn't upgrade your firmware for like 2 years, get the new firmware. Because with the new firmware, you now have first a little strobe, and then you have the full power or 1/8 or whatever you set in this one. So you can use your light meter. Now, does it make any sense to use your light meter on ETTL? No, because ETTL will always determine your exposure for you. So only on manual mode you use your light meter. Anneweek, you have a question.
There are still people who cannot watch anything. They see link is expired.
Okay, this link is expired. We are recording this, so for the people who can see it, we just hope that it will be streaming now live, and otherwise you will see the recording later on. So just put it down there, that we will check later, and otherwise upload the recording. Okay, so anyway, what we can try to do now is we're going to show you first what the strobes do. So I'm going to ask my model to come in the set. Hello Ingrid, how are you?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay, can you stand against the wall please? And let's start very, very simple by just aiming my strobe straight at my model, and let's see what happens. So are you ready for this? Are you sure?
I am.
Oh my. She's very confident. Okay, so I'm going to grab my camera and we're going to shoot our model. Well, I'm going to take a picture of our model. One moment. Okay, there we go. Connect it to the Sony. And grab my cables.
I only see the chat.
Okay, so now I'm connected to Capture One for my photos to come in. And let's take the first shot. Now let's go to manual mode just for fun. So we're going to go to TTL 0, manual mode, and I'm going to set it up for ISO 200 4.5. So 4.5 is my aperture, my ISO is 200, and I'm shooting on 125th of a second. And my strobe is aimed at my model. Now this is ETTL. There we go. Now, as you can see, my model is standing against a black background. My model is wearing something dark, and ETTL figured it out pretty well, right? You see a perfectly exposed image. Now, if my model would be wearing something white against a white wall, I have a problem, because the camera will always try to make it 18% gray. That's how the system works. It works the same as your as your reflective meter in the camera. So it will always try to do 18% gray. This is why ETTL isn't my weapon of choice, for the very simple reason it's too, well, unstable. Because if I now zoom in on her face, for example, or I zoom all the way out, there will be a slight difference in exposure on my model, and this is something that I don't want. I want that perfect exposure every time. But let me see first what we can do. Now, if I zoom in, what do I actually do? When I zoom in, I actually change my field of view, right? So let me show it you very quickly. If I do this, I'm on 24mm. I'm actually shooting all the way there to the studio. I'm shooting that way, and I'm getting a lot of image information in. Now, if I zoom in, I'm actually on 70mm, and now I really aim only on my model in front of me. Now, if you use a strobe on the camera, does it make any sense on 24mm to only light your model? No, of course not. You have to light the whole area. Now, if you're on 70mm, does it make any sense to light the whole area? No, of course not. You only light your model. You only light that pinpoint. So this is something that you have to wrap your mind around. So when you zoom, you change your angle of view. Now, on most strobes, if you're on camera, the strobe does exactly the same thing. So you're on 24, it covers a wide area. Now you zoom to 70 and it covers a smaller area. This is called zooming your strobe. The fun part is, you can also do this when the strobe is off camera. So I'm now going to go into the menu, actually to the zoom mode. And let me see if Lieselot can see this on the back. So we're going to switch over to that camera. And now I'm in the zoom mode, and in zoom I can actually go from 24 all the way up to 135. There we go. Oops, I have to go to zoom, of course, and then go all the way up. It's a little bit weird looking at the back of my camera and checking her. Okay, there we go. So now I'm on 135. Now let's see how this looks. So, are you ready? If I do a normal portrait, you probably won't see a lot of difference. You will still see that my strobe is lighting the whole area, and you can see that my model is properly exposed. But now when I zoom out, you see something really cool. And again, this is not a great picture, but it's just to show you the difference. Now what you see is that we're getting a sort of vignetting around my model, so I can really pinpoint my model. Now, what is the fun part about this? Well, on this distance, there's not much fun there. But as soon as I start closing in my strobes, now you can really play with your lighting. So let's make a more serious setup. So I'm going to use a little bit of angle in my light. Let's do this a little bit up. There we go. Aim it a little bit down. Awesome. Now let's do the same thing. And I'm on ETTL, so I don't have to remeter anything. So let's go to the zoom mode, go back to 35mm, 24 of course. There we go. Can you look a little bit that way? Perfect. Pretty nice. And now you can already see that ETTL doesn't like this that much. Can you look a little bit more there? Perfect. You can already see that the face of my model is now really starting to blow out. And this is something that I don't like. And with ETTL, of course, you can use flash exposure compensation. Frank, what is flash exposure compensation? Very simple. You dive into your setting and you do TTL and you just go to minus. So let's say minus 1.3. So 1/3 of an f-stop lower. Can you look that way? Very nice. Now, this is perfect. I nailed it. Got the perfect exposure. No more overexposing. Now let's zoom out and see the effect of my strobe on 135. So I'm gonna go a little bit closer. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna use the zoom function and I'm gonna go to 135. And now you can see the difference. Because we're zooming in, you get way more of that vignetting in. So that's a really nice option. Okay, but I actually want to shoot manual, right? Because we want to have total control over our exposures. So how do we do that? Very simple. Let me first dial down the zoom to somewhere in between, let's say 70mm. And now you go to your modes, and what you actually do is you go to manual mode. So we go to select mode and manual. Now let's say I'm on 1/8 of a second. So, 1/8 power. Now the only thing I have to do is grab my light meter. So, Annemiek, if you want to grab the meter. And take off the remote. Turn on the meter because that helps enormously. And make sure that it's on ISO 200. And you just meter like you would normally do with studio strobes. Under the chin of the model or around her eyes. And there we go. Let me change the mode to strobes. There we go. 16.3. Now as you can see, that's a lot of power. I don't need that much power, so I'm going to lower the strobe a little bit. So I'll just go to select and I will just lower the strobe. So 132 or whatever, 32, 1/32 of a, I'm Dutch, don't laugh. Okay, there we go, f8.01. Now f8.01 means we're on f8 and 1/10 of an f-stop. Now what does this mean? Well, if you set your camera on f8, you're perfect. If you set your camera on f9, you're slightly underexposing. Now, why don't I take down that 1/10 of an f-stop? With studio strobes, you can actually control your strobes by 1/10 of an f-stop. So for the Ellingroms and a lot of other brands, you just lower it 1/10 of an f-stop and you're done. Perfect. With small flash, you don't have that option. You can only go down 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Meaning, if you are on f8, you go to f9, you go to f10 and you go to f11 and nothing in between. So if I'm stuck at 8.01, I'm stuck at 8.01. The only thing I can do is move the strobe just a little bit more to the back. And just hope that I now shaved off that 1/10 of an f-stop. And there we go, now I'm at 5.69. So I actually shaved off 2/10 of an f-stop. But that's not that important, it's only 1/10 of an f-stop. Okay, so now I know that on f8 everything will be correct. So let's grab the camera. And let's put it on f8. And there we go. Okay, can you look a little bit towards the light? Really nice. Eyes towards the light. This light. That's really nice. And now I know that I got the perfect exposure. Ingrid was actually looking at our beautiful Letgo panels, and I understand that she's looking to the Letgo panels because those are a lot nicer than the small strobes, but this is the light source. And by the way, we use Letgo panels in our studio, and we thank Letgo very much for making that possible, of course. Okay, now one of the fun things is I can just walk around my model and my exposure will never change. For the very simple reason, we use manual focus. Manual exposure. Okay, let's see. The only problem we now have is my model looks like The Walking Dead. She has this all eye white, and that's terrible. So I told her to look towards the light, but that means that she has all eye white there. So I don't want that. So what I will ask my model now is a little trick. Ingrid, can you look here? Very nice, and keep it that way. Very cool. And now you can see that she has way better light in her eyes. And now it's not all eye white, you can actually see the iris and the pupil. So I like that even more. Another tip, by the way, you see me now shooting in portrait mode. Like this, portrait mode. But I actually like to shoot in landscape mode. And now look at the difference. So this was portrait mode, now we're going to do the same thing. Look here. And we're going to do it in landscape mode and see the difference. This gives you way more interaction with your model. The frame looks a lot nicer. It's a little bit more filmic, and I just like that you are drawn in more, way more. Okay, so this was just what you can do with the small strobes. With the bare strobe, we didn't use any modifiers yet. So let's start using some modifiers, and let's incorporate something else like, and a week. Should we incorporate a chair? I think we should incorporate a chair. So, Ingrid, are you tired?
No.
No?
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. Oh, please sit down. So let's turn this here. There we go. Really nice. Now on the back, as you can see, we actually have red curtains. Now the curtains are of course to keep the cold out because we are in the Netherlands and it's freaking cold outside. So we use the curtains to keep the cold out. You can also use it as a background, but the other thing that's really cool with curtains, and that's really nice about curtains, you can move them away and show what's behind door number 1. There we go. Door number 1. Now, when people visit our studio, they always say, Frank, I love your space. It's nice and spacious and I love all the areas. But when are you going to paint your backdrop? And I always tell people, how do you mean, when are you going to paint your backdrop? Well, when are you going to paint your backdrop? Because, well, it looks a little bit old. And I always tell people, that's the cool part. Because that old look, that actually translates very well onto photographs. So let's see what we can do with this. So I'm going to take this one away. And I'm going to grab the strip light. So, here we have the strip light from Rogue, Expo Imaging. Now, one of the nice things about a strip light, this is actually like a rectangular. So you get this really nice rectangular look. And if you look really close, you can see that we have a grid on top. So here we go. And what you can see is that you actually have a grid and that really narrows the light beam. So meaning I can place it exactly where I want and I have no spill light on the back. So I have Ingrid sitting on a chair. It's like, you have the easiest job in the world. Okay, let's place our light here. Now, one of the things, of course, that you have to do is aim the light at your model. Because if you don't aim the light at your model, it will just go anywhere. And then you can, of course, just as easily use a normal bare strobe. So in this case, let's aim it down. And let's let the light come from above. There we go. Now, there we go. What can we do more? Of course, we now have a narrow beam of light. And what we can do more is, of course, let our model look into the light. So if she looks into the light, she will actually get that light. One moment, dat heeft totaal geen zin. Okay, guys, I will explain something. We have one stand that actually has a tightened bolt, and they're trying to unscrew it, but that won't work, so sorry. Okay, so let's take the light meter now. We have this one on, and we have this one also on channel 1, meaning radio 1, and we have it on group A, meaning group A is actually the first group. So on my remote control, again, I have A, B, C, and I'm now controlling only the first group. So I'm going to turn on the light meter. I'm going to take off the control again from the camera. This is the only thing about small flash. You have to use this control for the very simple reason this is where you set your strobes. So if you have a second one and you set your strobes and you test everything and use the one on your camera that has a different setting. So you have to take it off your camera every time. Okay, so let's see what the output is. Now the first thing I always ask my model, can you see through the grid? Do you see the white? Okay, cool. Because if she can see through the grid, I know 100% sure that she's in the hotspot, meaning she will get a perfect exposed image on her face and not somewhere else, for example on the chair. So I really want her face to be properly lit. Okay, so let's do the test. So I'm gonna meet her in front of her face. And I'm at 2.82. Now with the bare strobe, I was on the same power setting and I got a lot more light, right? That means that this modifier actually eats light. It's what I call eating light. It will take away a lot of lighting. So let's go to our power settings and let's raise it to, let's say, 1/4 power. That sounds nice. Okay, there we go. Now I'm on F8. So that's pretty cool. F8 is something I can work with. Okay, so let's take a shot on F8 and see how this looks. And again, this is the Rogue strip light. So in essence, it's just a flash bender, which I really like, and I'm going to show you that later on. And it's now folded with one extra modifier, which makes it a strip. And we're going to demolish that in a second to show you guys how it works. Okay, let me see. Let me start with a really bad angle from my side. So I'm just going to go here, aiming down. There we go. And there you have the image. And as you can see the image, well, I don't want to say it sucks, but it comes pretty close. It doesn't look nice, and that's because my angle is wrong. I'm all the way up and I'm shooting down on my model, and that's something that I really don't like, because if I shoot down on my model, she looks small and I don't like the shadow fall, and it's just not something that I like to do. So the first thing that I always do is go really low in my angle. So I'm going to sit on the floor and I'm going to shoot up. Really nice. Now can you look a little bit towards the light? Really nice. Chin down just a little bit. There we go. Ah, that's nice. Okay. And of course you can zoom in. You don't have to shoot full body. You can really nicely zoom in. Really cool. And of course what you can do is shoot portrait mode. Now in this case portrait mode can be done, because then you include her legs and everything. Really nice. Now look a little bit more up. That's cool. Okay, now can you lean forward a little bit? And maybe hold one hand on your knee. Very nice, and keep looking up. And now tilt your nose a little bit more towards me and eyes towards me. Nice. Now what you can see is she gets a really dark spot on her face, right? And that's something that I don't like. So I told her to look down, but as you can see, because the light is coming from above, that gives a really bad look for the model. And you don't want it to be called raccoon eyes, right? You want it to be a really cool model. So can you look up again? Really nice. Just lower your eyes a little bit. That's cool, that's it, that's perfect. Okay, chin up just a little bit more. There we go. That's nice. And now look straight into the light. As you can guys see, that there's a huge difference between every single shot, because the eyes can get really dark and at one point the eyes can really open up. So you have to experiment with that. Okay, let's do a few more in landscape mode. Chin down just a little bit. Eyes centered. That's really nice. Wow, that's amazing. That's cool. I'm going to change my angle a little bit. That's nice. You rock, girl. Always wait for the beep. I was a little bit too fast. Take your hair a little bit out of your face. There we go. Awesome. Now, as with all photography, angles are important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my angle and I'm going to shoot from the side. So I'm going to disappear for you guys, out of camera, out of range. Ah, now I can relax a little bit here. Nobody can see me, right? Okay, can you look a little bit up? Very nice. That's cool. Okay, can you look down a little bit that way? Perfect. Oh, I have to wait for the beep. Okay, now you can see that her whole face is black, so look a little bit more that way. Can you remove the hair from your face? That's nice. This is perfect. And can you do like a praying mode? That's really nice. Close your eyes and chin all the way up. And I'm going to switch a little bit to what I call my swivel screen. And I'm going to include a little bit of the light source. I'm going to show you a neat trick in Photoshop later on. There we go. Do it a little bit less. A little bit more my way. There we go. That's nice. And you hear that I'm constantly talking to my model. I'm constantly coaching because she doesn't see what I see through the lens. So she doesn't know if she's doing fine or wrong. And if you tell her, that will actually help your shoot enormously. Look a little bit more towards the light because you're too dark on one side. There we go. That's really nice. Awesome. Thank you so very much. Now let's see what we can do in Photoshop with these images. And then we're going to actually go to another set. And we're going to use the big flash bender and show you how to bend light. But let's first see what we can do with these shots in Photoshop. So I now taken over control. So let me change this one to a little bit more forward. There we go. Okay, so what can we do in Photoshop? Now the first thing we do is of course make a selection of the images. But before I make a selection of the images, I want to talk a little bit about monitors. Now, one of the most important things, of course, is how do you perceive your images on screen? So there are a few things you have to realize, like we have different color spaces. A lot of the monitors out there today use a color space called sRGB. Now, sRGB is a small color space. In Photoshop, you can also use Adobe RGB, which is a bigger color space. Okay, so the Adobe RGB is a bigger color space. And of course we also have Pro Photo RGB, which is a huge color space. Now when we go into Capture One, and this is my RAW converter by choice, because we also shoot tethered to Capture One. I also do a lot of my RAW conversion in Capture One. You can see that we actually have recipes. And the recipe I'm using here is called Frank to PS, meaning Frank to Photoshop. And guys, one moment. Lieselot, we're still using that wall in a moment for the second setup. So don't change anything, please. Okay, so we're actually now looking at my recipe, and this is called Frank to Photoshop. Now what it does, it will give my format of TIFF 16 bits. It will do uncompressed Pro Photo RGB, 300 dots per inch. Now those 300 dots per inch, well, pixels per inch, that's something that a lot of confusion is about, and I would say to people, just forget about it. It's about resolution and it's not about dots per inch. If you're gonna print and if you have a client that tells you, I wanna have the perfect print for a letter page, then you look at your dots per inch and you can actually calculate the resolution you need. Normally I will just deliver full resolution to our printers and they will just figure out how to put it on the page. That's not my job, that's their job. Although some want that really nice calculator, like, okay, we have to have 300 dpi and we have to have it on a letter page or A4 in the Netherlands. Well, then you can do it with your dots per inch, but I would rather do it in Photoshop. So this one I always leave on 300. Okay, scale is of course fixed because you don't want anything else for this. The scale you can actually use if you want to go to, for example, internet, or if you want to make it smaller for another reason. That's pretty handy. But not for this, because we want to go in full resolution to a TIFF 16 bits in Pro Photo RGB to Photoshop. So your monitor has to show those colors. Now Pro Photo RGB is not something that a monitor can show at the moment. The best they can do is 99 or 98% Adobe RGB. Now Adobe RGB is already a big color space, so you can work fine with that. And if you calibrate your monitor perfectly, there should be no reason at all why you couldn't work at Pro Photo RGB. And I actually prefer to work in the bigger color spaces. Don't ask me why, it's personal. So now let me see. You know what? You know that BenQ is sponsoring this, right? So let me show you just a video about what BenQ thinks about their monitors. And let's go on a safari. Are you ready? Let's go on a safari.
Only you can see moments that tell stories. Colors that live true to their names. And lights highlighting the drama of life. What if your monitor lets all these moments go to waste? BenQ Photographer Monitor. Preserve the world that you captured. Display true, spectacular colors that others can't. With the exclusive OSD controller, you can switch fast through different modes, giving you choices on amazing images. The black and white mode previews your moments in black and white, allowing you to adjust color and light to fit the emotion that's perfect for the shot. Let the magic of those moments reappear and never let them fade away again. BenQ Photographer Monitor. Revive the moment.
Okay guys, so now you saw the BenQ video about their 27-inch and 24-inch monitor for photographers. Now, I actually use the 27-inch and I really like the monitor. It's huge and it's very, very affordable. They sell it in Europe for about 699 euros, which is a really cool price. Now, I talked about that analyzer, you know. Now, let me see where I have my analyzer because I just picked it up. There we go, and I will show you this. Now, this is the device that you actually put in front of your monitor and you just start up their color palette software. And then you can calibrate your monitor and you can make sure that everything you see on the screen is as intended. So this is very, very handy because now you know that the colors you retouch are actually the real colors. Okay, so let's start with the selecting process. And I will switch to full desktop mode. And there we go. Okay. Now the first thing I always look at is, do I like a picture? And if I like the picture, this is a picture that I will save. If I don't like the picture, I will delete it immediately. Now this is an okay picture. This is okay. This I don't like that much. This is okay. And this is, well, you see a lot of the heating, so I don't like that one. This is a little bit too hot. The same thing. You see why ETTL doesn't really work for me, and as soon as you underexpose, like here, it's okay. So that's why I always prefer to go for manual mode. Okay, so this is a little bit too hot, but it can be rescued because I really like the shot. So let's see if we can rescue this just a little bit. So let's just lower the exposure a little bit. There we go. And this is the nice thing about having a camera with high dynamic range. You can always recover a little bit, but as you can see here, it's a little bit yellowish in the highlights, and that I don't like, so that's a shame. We can always make it black and white. And you know the joke, right? If you have an image that's great, but it doesn't look right, or you didn't do right in focusing, just make it black and white, add a lot of contrast and noise, and you have instant art. Okay, I don't like the hands here and the fact that you don't see her second eye. You see this in the back? You don't see that eye. You see the front eye very cool, but the back eye is a little bit too dark, so I don't like this shot. This one the same, the back eye doesn't have a lot of light in it. This is better. And these were all test shots, so even if I find one, that's already a miracle. Now here we go, a lot of the eye white, so it's more like The Walking Dead. This is much better. Here we have the cat's light in her eye. It's very sharp. So this is a cool shot. But now see the difference. You know, we talked about shooting portrait mode or landscape mode. And as you can see, the landscape mode is just way more evolving. It really drags you into the shot. Okay, this was shot from above, so not very nice. And now when I change the position to lower, this will actually be a much better shot. Okay, I really like this shot. This one is also nice. Now this one I don't like. This is okay. This is too dark in her eyes, too dark. This is okay. This is too much eye white. This is really nice. Now composition wise, I actually like this one a little bit better. This one I love the pose. This is much better than the previous one. This one is a little bit depressed, so we're gonna delete this one. Don't like the pose, don't like the pose. This is a little bit too weird with her hand here, so we're gonna remove this one. I don't like the hand, so I'm not gonna delete it because it's an okay shot, but I don't like the hand, so I'm not gonna retouch that one. That one is too dark. Strobe didn't fire. This is where I was talking about aiming your model's face towards the light. As you can see, she really has a dark side on her face here, so this is something that I don't like, so this one will be deleted. This one is better. Now I also like the hand more. I like the way that the light falls on her fingers, so that's really cool. I really like her eye here. It's pin sharp, so this is one that will probably be a candidate for retouching. But by telling a little bit more of a story, by holding her hands like this, like a praying mode, you get a lot of better image. And this one is even better. You see the difference between going a little bit, like this is okay, but it's not 100%, and going all the way. And of course we always check very quickly if the eyes are in focus, and if they are, that's a candidate for retouching. You can do this quicker, by the way, in Capture One. You can go to View. This is one of the reasons I love to use Capture One. And you show Focus Mask. Now as you can see here, everything that's green is in focus. So that makes it much easier to select your images very quickly, because now you can see if you got the focus right. In this case the focus is here and not on our eyes. And as you can see here, indeed, Capture One is right, so you can delete that one. You can delete that one. This one, the focus is actually on our eyes, and that's true, it's very sharp. So this is a really cool way of checking very quickly if your images are in focus or aren't in focus. But let's turn it off for now. Hide focus mask. Okay, let's select the images for retouch. I really love this one, she's looking straight at me. And this was actually one of the test shots. I also like this one. Let me go through. I know there was a better one. That's the one. I like that one. And from these praying shots, let's take that one. And I wanted to show you a neat little trick in Photoshop with that one. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is I'm going to sort on rating. That's already done. So I'm going to go back. So these images I won't retouch for you guys. So I will do this one and probably the one with the chair. Okay, so this shot is pretty nice, right? Now in Lightroom, what you actually do is you do Control of Command E and you go into Photoshop. For Capture One, it's actually Command D to go into Photoshop. So there we go. We're going to take the stylus for the Wacom. Now if you followed me online, you know that we're testing at this moment with the iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil to do retouching like in a Cintiq way. But I'm not confident enough yet to do this on live because we've only been testing it for a few days. So, but that will be something that we will be showing you in the future. Okay, there we go. Okay, view fit on screen. Now the first thing, of course, we have to look at the skin. Now Ingrid has a really cool skin. You could say she's photoshopped inside. So I don't need any skin smoothing software on this. And if you have a model that doesn't need any skin smoothing software and you have a shot like this, don't use it. Because now over here you can see all the nice pores and details and the little hairs. If you start using skin softening software, it can be that this is very, very flat. This is with a lot of detail and this is flat again. And it gives you a very unnatural look. So in this case I would rather just use the healing brush, as you can see here. And now a lot of people ask me, how do you get it into an oval? Well, that's over here with your properties of your brush. You see here it's on 35 pixels, but under here is where the magic is. Here you can change it into an oval or round. And you can even change the angle. Now why an oval? Because it then doesn't look as retouched And at that point, it's very important that you don't see retouching done in your images. So let's take this one a little bit like that. Very nice. Oh, sorry guys, I messed up. I was also looking at something else. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's take out this. And of course I don't like the stray hairs over here so much. So we're gonna take those out. Okay. Because they shine up a little bit too much because they get a lot of light. And again, if you're watching this stream and you are able to watch the stream, then you're lucky because a lot of people aren't. And that's why we are recording this. So I'm just continuing it like we're streaming. So later on in the recording, it sounds live and it doesn't sound artificial. And of course, we're going to cut out that we had a problem with the stream. Okay, there we go. This is pretty cool. Now this I want to take out. Okay. And as you can see, there's always a little bit, let's zoom into 200% so you can see. When you use the healing brush, there's always this little bit of flow. Now what you can do is you just take your clone tool and just lower the opacity to, let's say, 50%, and you just massage it out. So you press a few times on your tablet and that really makes a whole lot of difference. Now if you're still retouching with the mouse, really consider using a tablet. Now if you already have an iPad and you have a stylus to draw on, check out an app called AstroPad, because AstroPad is a little bit like a Cintiq replacement. It's not exactly the same, but you could say it's a Cintiq replacement from Wacom, so you're actually painting on your screen. If you have an iPad Pro with the pencil, you're in for a whole new experience because it's really kick-ass. It's a really cool solution. Okay. Now only this one, and let's do this one a little bit different because this can be a problem with the healing brush, as you can see here. And this one is okay with the healing brush, but this is a little bit tricky. So let's go into Quick Mask and select a brush, and now take a small brush, and what you do is you just paint over the hairs that you want gone. There we go. And you also do this one, and you do this one. Very nice. And now you deselect, of course. There we go. And you invert your selection. Now you just press delete or backspace and use content aware fill. And this is a really fast way of getting rid of those hairs. And especially when you have hairs, I always like the way that content aware fill runs because it's a lot easier to do. Okay, so now we still have this area. And of course the strobe I prefer to take out. So let's see what we can do with content aware fill with that. Again, go to your quick mask and take a bigger brush. What I'm going to do is just paint on my strobe and stand. And there we go. And maybe a little bit here. Invert the selection and press this. There we go. And still, this is a pretty big selection, so it will take a little bit of time, but content aware fill is magic if you compare to doing it with a clone or healing brush. Okay, there we go. I did a pretty good job. The only thing is, I don't like it here, so what I'm gonna try to do is just clone this out just a little bit. Not too much, just clone it out a bit. And you will see in a moment why I'm a little bit sloppy by cloning this, because we're going to do something with the light, of course. There we go. Now as you can see, I don't like the effect of the strip light here. What I would like to see is a round effect and a little bit more of that light hitting my model. Now there's a very easy trick for that. You make a new layer and you use a white brush. So I'm actually going to take a brush with white paint and I'm just going to paint the effect like I like it. Like, okay, I would like to see something like this. This is the same way, by the way, how we turn on headlights in cars and candles or whatever. Now that one I will very slightly blur in Gaussian blur, as you can see here. Okay, now let's create a second layer, or in this case a third, but a second for the light. So an empty layer. And I take a really big brush, all with white paint. There we go. And now this one, we're gonna blur a lot. So let's first turn down the brush size again. Okay, filter, blur, and let's go all the way up. Gaussian blur, and all the way up to 1000 pixels. And press OK. And now she's bathing in light. The only thing I now have to do is change my opacity a little bit and blend it together. And change the opacity first to 0 to see the effect, and then build it in just a little bit. There we go. And that bottom layer, you can't use the opacity. Do you see this? Then you can see that it's that strip light. So you have to keep that one on 100%. And there we go. Now what I always do is flatten the image. And now a lot of people say, you can't do flatten image because you never know if you want to go back. Well, I know, but I think this is just my way of working, and I like to work always on one layer and then just add the effect. So I'm now done, and for me this is a new picture and I will build up from that. But if you have a different workflow, that's okay, you know, it's the way that you work and the way that makes it easy. Now let's make this image a little bit more poppy, so a little bit more contrasty. So let's create a new layer. Go into this picture, and now you have to realize that in photography, and I will switch back to my screen so you can actually see me again. So there we go. So now you can see me again. Now in photography and in all kinds of how we perceive color, we always see three colors: red, green, and blue. Now everything you see around you is formed by those three colors, because our eyes only see red, green, and blue. Now if you print, you also have cyan, magenta, and yellow, and of course black for key. Now the primary colors, red, green, and blue, is where everything is based on. So if you go into Photoshop, you will actually in your channels, and let's go to our channels, you'll actually find red, green, and blue. So I will go into channels, and here you see this is red, this is green, and this is blue. Now for the skin tones, red is amazing because you get this really nice lush skin tones, very almost porcelain-like. So let's work with that, but first I'm gonna go back to my full desktop, otherwise you see me constantly in the bottom of your screen. There we go. Okay, so let's go to the red channel. I really like the red channel. So what I do is Command A, select all, and Command C, copy. Let me see if that worked, because I was in a different screen. Command A, select all, Command C, copy. And just press RGB again. Go to that empty layer and do Command V, just paste it in. Now you go into your blending modes. Now the blending modes are also cool. You have different stuff like darken, multiply, color burn, and I think nobody really knows what they do exactly. I only know that I love soft light. There we go. Now you get that really nice harsh contrast look. So this is without and this is with. It gives you way better imaging quality in my opinion for this shot. Not for all shots, but for this shot it really works. Okay, for me again, flatten the image. Now do we like this? No, right, we have to take that one out. Now you can do it with cloning, but with cloning you will have the problem that you will have to take into account the fade off of your lighting, and that can be very, very tricky. So this is also a case of content-aware fill. Now if you're still using an older version of Photoshop and you don't have content-aware fill, this is one of the main reasons, I think, one of the main reasons to switch to a modern version of Photoshop. And let's be honest, for Creative Cloud at the moment you don't have a lot of budget hits, because it's like $10 a month for Photoshop and Lightroom, so that's pretty cheap. Now for me the final step is always using a filter to tint my image. In this case I will use DxO Film Pack, which I really like, and I will just select a preset. So let me see, we're now going to Film Pack. I hope. It's one of those days, and there we go. And now you can use the clickety-click until you see what you like method, meaning I will just click on all these presets and I will just find one that I really like for the shot. And because that's taking way too much time, of course, because I created a lot of presets. And by the way, these are for sale on my website. You can get them for €7.50 and you have this whole set of presets, as you can see here. And there's some pretty cool ones there. And because I normally always end up with FD color change, which I really like, and now you can see a before and after. I normally would just jump to those straight away when I'm demoing. So let's go to my red pop, that's the other one I really like. And let's see which one I like better. I actually like the color change better. So let's go to the color change. And color change too. Really nice. It doesn't change a lot, but it just gives the image for me that final look that I love. Okay. And let's save this one, file close and save. Okay, let's do one more and then we're gonna do a next setup. So let's go to capture one and let's retouch this one and see what we can do. I love this shot and there's one problem. Now I always tell people shoot a color checker. Now why should you shoot a color checker? Well, for a reason that you see here. And this is one of the main things that I always stress during workshops. If you don't shoot a color checker, how can you balance your colors right? Of course you have profilings in your computer, for example, for your big strobes, but now I'm using small strobes. So how do I correct this? There's a very simple way. If you correct this and you are slightly off and you make sure that you're slightly off for all the shots, you have a different look. If you try to correct it piece by piece and image by image, you will see that there's an incontinuity in your shots. And it will actually look very bad for your client. So what you have to do is make sure that if you correct this, you copy it to all the shots with the same setup. So let's see how that looks. So let's go back to my desktop. And there we go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm very simply going to go to the color picker. Oh, sorry. And I'm going to select something in the background. There we go. And just until I see the white that I like. This is nice. Now I'm going to select the images that are shot against that background, these two. And I will actually say adjustments, apply of copy and apply. And we do apply. Now I know that these two images are exactly the same in color balance, meaning that it's now a look and not a mistake. It's of course still a mistake because you should always shoot the color checker. Okay, there we go. Go to Photoshop, Command D, and let's see what we can do with this shot. Now this is more a portrait, a beauty shot, so not high contrast. So for this one we're gonna do skin retouching. And we're gonna do a form called frequency separation. Now I've already explained this a few times in digital classrooms and already on my Quite Frankly video web podcast. So I'm just gonna run the action for you guys. So I'm gonna press play. And we're gonna do the setting on, let's say for Ingrid, this is okay. Press OK. Now what it does, it's create two layers, actually a low frequency and a high frequency layer. The low frequency layer is just a blurred layer with skin. The top layer is actually a layer with only detail, like a pen drawing or a high pass filtering. The fun part is now that because I separated my details from my skin, I can go really wild on my skin smoothing here. Now you have to realize that skin smoothing isn't about removing pores. Skin smoothing is about evening out colors. This is a most made mistake by starting photographers and retouching. They will try to smoothen out the skin by removing all these little pores. And that's actually what makes humans humans and not lizards, snakes, whatever, with no skin detail. So let's go into filter and let's go into a filter I used to love for this, is portraiture from Imagenomic. I really like this filter because it gives me a lot of options. So I made a preset for this, and this is a really cool preset. It's called Smoothing for Frequency Separation. And in essence, it's everything on full blast, except of course sharpness and softness, again on full blast. Now you select some of your skin tones. Here we go. And you just press OK. The fun part is it only does it on the bottom layer, meaning you will get a very, very nice evened out skin and you don't lose any detail of the pores. Here you go. So that looks a lot better than before. So if I remove this, you can actually see the huge difference. And normally this would take you hours to do it with Dodge and Burn. Of course, Dodge and Burn is a little bit better or much better, but it will also take you so much time that if you calculate it back to your client will kill you probably for the bill they get. Now on the high frequency separation layer, you only have to take into account detail, so no more colors, because there are no colors, so meaning the healing brush can now be used very, very easily. Do make sure that you have it on current layer, of course. So there we go. And just take out this effect just a little bit. Now this is a little bit too much. And again, I want those pores in. I just want them, I don't want them too obvious. So I want to take the edge off. Of course, I'm doing it very sloppy now because I want to do it fast. Normally we spend about, well, an image like this, about 5 to 10 minutes on just the skin. And that's about everything I do in an image. So that's pretty fast, I think. Take out this. Now if you're shooting a portrait for a model herself, my rule is always I take out whatever is temporary. So if she has like dimples because she ate the whole Hershey factory before she came to the shoot, I will take those out. But if she has like a scar or a little mole somewhere, I will always leave those in because those are part of my model and she can be proud of it. So if you take it out, she can actually be insulted. Okay, fit on screen. Now of course what you have to do is make sure and that you don't affect anything else in the frame, because now if I turn this on and off, you can actually see that also the background is affected. So what I will do is on this map, I will actually do a folder, I will do a layer mask and hide all. And now I will take my brush, and because this is black, I will actually use white paint. And I will just paint the effect in the areas where I want the effect to be shown. And there we go. And she's getting now her beauty treatment in Photoshop. Ingrid is now rolling over the floor, laughing out loud. Okay, let's flatten this image. And let's go to 100%. And now we see the eyes, and I love their eyes, only I want them a little bit brighter. So now what I do is I will take my dodge tool, I will make it a little bit smaller and make sure that you are on an exposure of below 50 and on highlights. And you just only go over the iris. There we go. Now the eyes are a little bit too bright here. It looks like she has some form of eye disease because it's a little bit faded out. So I will change my dots tool into the burn tool and I will say shadows, and I will raise this to, let's say, 20%. I'll just very quickly make her eyes black again, because Ingrid doesn't have any problem with her eyes, I think. There we go. Okay, now let's make the background pop a little bit. Now one of the filters you see in 99.9% of my images is actually a filter from a company called MacFun. And MacFun has a creative kit 2016 out now, and this is called Intensify, and this is one of the filters I can't live without. Well, I can live without, that's a big saying of course, but I just love the filter, and that's why you see it in a lot of my shots, because it really gives the image a lot of drama. So if you want drama, just press Poppy Drama. There we go. And now you can see the effect before and after. It really makes that background pop. But also the clothing, her hair, and of course her skin. But the skin I don't want the effect in, so I'm just going to press apply. And of course there are many different presets, and also those are available on my website. We don't charge 200 euros for preset specs, we only charge 7.50 euros. So check them out, they're from, I believe, Alien Skin, MacFun, and we also have some Nick still on there, and of course DxO. Okay, so it's processing now, making sure that I deselect the skin in a moment. There we go. Awesome. Layer mask, reveal all. I want to show everything. Now I have a white piece of paper. I'm going to take a brush with black paint. Now some people ask me, how do you know when it's black or when it's white? Well, to be totally honest, I never know. I always try white, and if that doesn't work, I try black, because there are only two options. So one will always work if the other doesn't. I don't want it too much in our shirt. So let's take it out there. And I'll just back down the total effect a little bit. So let's start at 0 and just gradually build it up until you see what you like. There you go. Now if you want the background to be a little bit more detailed, you can of course pump it all the way up, but I like it a little bit more subtle for now. There we go. So flatten my image, and now let's tint the image again with DxO Film Pack. So go to Film Pack 5. And let's see how Red Pop now looks, because I love the color of her hair, and I think that Red Pop will really add to that. And again, they're just presets. You can change them to whatever you want. They're actually standard presets which I adjusted to my liking. Some very much, some just a little bit. There we go, really love this. And save. Now there are also other plugins out, of course, for tinting, and one of the plugins that I also like is Alien Skin. Now I want to show you Alien Skin too, so let's go into Filter and let's go into Alien Skin Exposure 7. And what I always tell people is, if you want to go all out and you want to go overboard, get Alien Skin, because those guys really know how to push the boundaries of looks. There we go. Now these are actually all my presets. I created a lot in Alien Skin, and let me go to one that I like over this image, probably the Old Worm. It really gives you that old vintage look. It's a little bit too harsh on the reds, so what you can do is actually just take down the reds and just very carefully do this. It's like seasoning your steak before and after. I'm not going to run it now, but I just want to show you some of the presets, and that you can see that this program just takes it a little bit further than DxO. DxO is, in my opinion, or let me put it this way, the way I use DxO is always a little bit more subtle, and as soon as I go to Alien Skin Exposure, that's where the freaky stuff happens. But of course you can also do that with DxO Film Pack, but it's just the way that I work. But DxO Film Pack you can also go freaky, of course, and with Alien Skin you can also go very subtle. There we go, I like this one. So we have a before and after, just gives it a little bit of glow. Now let me see if by accident I didn't use any bokeh or bouquet. And what does bouquet do? Well, you can change your focus point a little bit, like you're using a tilt and shift lens, or that you're shooting on wide open apertures, like for example here. But this is not for me in this image, no way. So let's turn it off again. There we go, and press apply. Okay, now we're going to set up for the second shot in a moment, and I just want to show you one more quick thing about MacFun. You can see that there's a lot of stuff going on with exposure 7, so it calculates and it creates really cool looks. There we go. And here you see the before and after. Now let's blend those in a little bit. So start at 0 and just blend in the effect. There you go. Now remember, these are shots that I just play around with. If I shoot for a client, I will try to keep them as natural looking as possible, because my client doesn't want Instagrammed shots. Although this is not Instagrammed, of course, it's very subtle. But they want natural looking shots in most cases. So I'll always give them one of these and of course the natural looking shot. But I just like them tinted a little bit more. Okay, so which plugin should you buy? Well, that's always a question. Let's go back to my my screen in this way. So which plugin should you buy? Well, there's always the question of what should I buy, because there are so many options and it's so expensive. For example, if you want to buy the whole creative kit from McFun, you're about, I believe, $633 in, and that's a lot of money, of course, for great plugins, but it's still $633. Now, Black Friday is coming up and they have this amazing deal on Creative Kit, and it's only 89 euros or dollars, sorry, $89. So that's a huge, huge discount and you get all kinds of goodies in. Now, we created a special page on our website. If you go to www.frankdoorhof.com/discount, you can actually find the whole discount page, and there's also some Black Friday deals there from Topaz and of course all the other companies and coupons we have. Now, if you want to know what's in the Creative Suite, do you want to know that? Yes, of course you do. So I'm going to show you a quick overview of what's in the Creative Suite from McFun. So enjoy this, and then we're going to go for the next setup and we're going to show you a very special flash banner that's going to be released very soon.
Introducing Creative Kit by MacFun, a collection of essential photo software designed exclusively for Mac users. You get 6 award-winning apps that are fast, powerful, fun, and easy to use for all of your photo editing needs. Let's take a closer look and see what's inside Creative Kit. Intensify helps you reveal the hidden beauty of your photos. With dozens of professionally created presets, making a stunning, dramatic image is as easy as clicking a button. You'll easily get fantastic results from even the most ordinary shots. Tonality is the most advanced black and white photo editor ever made for Mac. Featuring over 160 creative presets, you can explore and pick a desired style in seconds. Authentic film looks, grain, adaptive contrast, and other innovative features blend the elegance of traditional black and white photography with state-of-the-art technology. The result? Unique images that stand the test of time. Noiseless provides powerful noise reduction that is simple, fast, and smart. Proprietary technology makes low-light photos look their best. In just a few clicks, you'll get crisp, natural-looking photos no matter what camera you used. Unique algorithms for smartphone and DSLR photos make it a must-have tool to fight distracting noise that can ruin otherwise great photos. SnapHeal is hands down the world's most advanced image healing software for all kinds of photos. You can remove unwanted objects like strangers, dust spots, wires, and much more, ultra fast and with more flexibility than ever. 9 smart erasing algorithms plus a complete retouching kit give you all the tools you need to tackle any challenge and make your photos perfect. Focus generates professional quality lens and blur effects to highlight important subjects in your photos without the need for expensive gear. Face detection makes portrait enhancement super quick, while motion blur and tilt shift can be used to add a sense of action or even create a miniaturized look. FX Photo Studio is a powerhouse for digital photo editing. Over 200 photo effects, filters, and frames put thousands of creative styles right at your fingertips. Mix, customize, and stack presets like analog, halftone, grunge, and many more to make truly unique photographic art. This collection of award-winning photo software with its powerful and unique tools gives you a total solution to conquer practical challenges and inspire creativity in your photography. If you're a photographer who works with Photoshop, Lightroom, or Aperture, all of the apps also work as plugins. Try it on your photos today for mind-blowing images.
And that was the video for the Total Suite 2016 from McFun. And again, normally $633. Now it's only $89. And I'm not from Telcel. But of course, if you order it via our website, www.frankdoorhof.com/discount, you will actually also support Digital Classroom. So they give us a little bit in affiliate code. So guys, order it from our website and support what we do for you guys. Now, one of the things that I found out that was very, very tricky when doing small flash on location was dragging around softboxes. And softboxes are small. We love the Lestolites, for example. I still use the Switchbox, which I absolutely adore. It's a big softbox, and when you just zip it up, you have that smaller strip light. It's awesome. But the one thing that really blew my mind and that really started to getting me into that small flash stuff was actually when I found out these guys, flash benders, or in other words, Expo Imaging Rogue. And they have a whole line of modifiers for your small flash, like the softbox you saw in a moment, or in the previous setup, the strip light. And I promised you, by the way, that we're gonna take that one apart, and I'm gonna show you now how it works. So I'm gonna take this one off my strobe. There we go. Now this looks like a strip light, right? And you see the strip light actually with the grid, and it looks pretty complete. The fun part is, if you take it off, you have a normal flash bender. And this is one of the things that I love, because in my bag I will actually just fold it up like this and just put it on top of my camera gear, and it doesn't take any space. In other words, traveling with 2 or 3 flash benders gives me 2 or 3 softboxes or strip lights, or I can even fold them into a snoot. So very, very cool stuff. The only thing was, I sometimes on location want a little bit more bite in my image, a little bit more contrast. So they also have this silver inlays, which you actually can Velcro on top of this, and you have silver. The only problem is your flash bender gets a little bit more heavy. So I talked to Eric and John and I said, you know what, I love your products, it's awesome, but can't you make one that is silvery? And they said, what do you mean by silvery? I said, well, I don't want that whole silver look. I don't want that really biting contrast that you normally have with silver, but I want it a little bit less silvery. And those guys, they can read minds somehow, because they came up with this material. And I kid you not, this is awesome. And it's also stiffer. This is the Flash Bender 2. So with the other one, it's okay, but this one is really, really cool. And you can now also slide this one over. So you can bend it any way you want. And these side panels, with that one, you can't bend the side panel. So the Flash Bender 2 actually also can bend the side panels. And this one has a silvery inlay, which is really cool. I'm going to use that one in a moment. Now I hear you ask, Frank, is there only one? Yes, there's only one. Up until now. Because within 1 or 2 weeks, they will start shipping those to dealers everywhere around the world. And you can buy your own silvery flash bender. And because silvery didn't look nice on the packaging, they said, well, Frank, you know what, it's your idea. Send me your autograph. So this is a signature series, Frank Doorhof. Sounds so weird saying that myself, but this is the signature series flash bender from Rogue Expo Imaging. And if you want this one, just wait a little bit. They will be in stores very, very soon. Or of course, if you're in the Netherlands and you visit one of our workshops, you can pick one up from us, because we're gonna stock them, of course, too. So let's see how this one works and what you can do with the flash benders. Because one of the things that I said when I started using the flash bender is that it's like magic. It's literally freaking magic. So let's see what we can do with this one. Ingrid, are you ready? And can you, just by accident, wear a shirt from Guns N' Roses?
I can.
You can?
Yeah.
It's amazing, she can. Okay, so the first thing is you have to put it on your strobe, of course. Now with the old flash benders you had Velcro and you had little push buttons. I don't know how they're called. We call them, I don't even know how we call them. Drukknopen, push buttons, whatever. Yeah, that's the name. Oh my, sorry guys. So with this new flash bender you actually have this. You have this little loop and you just go through with your Velcro. There we go. And you just tighten it very, very tight around the head of your strobe. And there you go, now you have your flash bender. Now let's see how it looks normally, but I will always do one thing. Now if you look here, you can actually see that the light is leaving the flash bender and aiming at the ceiling, meaning if I shoot on full power, I will still reflect back on my model, but a lot of power will also leave the room. Or not leave the room, of course, but go towards the ceiling. So what I want to do is I actually want to steer that light. So the first thing I always do is just aim this down, meaning now I literally use all my light. So let's see how this looks. You can stand against the wall, please. I should have been a cop, now I can tell you. Stand against the wall, please. Okay, there we go. So let's aim this one up, turn it on. And this one is also on channel A. What a coincidence. All my strobes are on channel A. You remember what we forgot last time? Shoot a color checker, right? Because that's very important. And the color checker is over there, Anouk. And here we go. So the most important thing is that you shoot the color checker as flat as possible. Now why is that important? Very, very simple. If you want to make a profile, there shouldn't be any color differences between the original and the one you shoot. In other words, if you have, let's say, high contrast lighting, you will have one side that's a little bit darker than the other side. So make it as flat as possible. So can you hold it in front of your face and aim it straight towards the light. But of course, I need to meter the light, because I can't just trust ETTL, right? Okay, so I'm still on manual mode. Let me meter the light on my model. 8.07. Now 8.07 is almost f11. It's actually f10. So let's go down, because 7, if I want to go down to f8, and my light meter works in tenths of an f-stop, but my remote control and camera works in 1/3 of an f-stop, I actually have to go down 2 clicks. So I'll go here. I'll go into the manual mode, 1, 2 clicks down, and I would be on f8 if I'm correct. Let's see if I'm correct. There we go, f8.0, that's perfect. Now a lot of people will tell you that using a light meter takes a lot of time, but I think this just proves it, that it actually speeds up your workflow immensely. Okay, first the color checker. Oh Ingrid, there's a problem with the software. You really have to make a real funny face, otherwise it won't work. Are you ready? 1, 2, there we go. So can you look straight into the light, please? Okay, so as you can see, this already gives you a really nice image quality. It's softer, but it's still not as soft as a white one. And it's contrasty, but it's not as contrasty as a pure silver one. So it's somewhere in between. I really like that image quality. It's really silvery. That's the only thing I can say. It's silvery. It's amazing. So anyway, so this is with just the bare flash benders. Now let's see what you can do with that flash bender. Now, I won't meter every shot I'm going to do, because I'm going to change the flash bender. And if I meter every shot, it will take a long time. And normally, of course, you don't do that. So you don't change around your flash bender that much. You normally shoot it. And then when you like it, you actually start metering and then you take the shot. But I want to show you some different tricks that we do with the flash bender. So let's move the light really close to the wall, like here. And because I'm using a boom arm, I can actually extend that arm towards the wall. So let's turn this around and let's keep it up a little bit higher. There we go. Change the head of the strobe a little bit. Aim towards the source. There we go. Now this is the first shot I'm going to take, and I'm just going to guesstimate this. So I think we're going to go up to f16 or something. And again, normally we meter, but because we're on a time schedule, I don't have the time to meter now. So look that way, please. And I'm pretty good at guesstimating. So this is the shot with just the flash bender very close to the wall. Now as you can see, there's still a lot of light leakage on the wall. Let's say you want to take that out. Now with normal strobes, that will be very tricky, because how do you take that out? You can flag, of course, your strobe. Flag it? Yes, you can flag it. Now what is normally flagging? Flagging means that you put something on the side and make sure that there's no light hitting it. But how do you do that with the flash bender? That's what they're designed for. You just simply bend your light like this. And you just aim your light towards your model. There we go. So let's see what we can do now. Okay, look a little bit that way. Very nice. Now the background is a little bit darker. We're getting there. I don't want it totally dark. If I would, I can make it totally black. But I don't want it totally black. But now I want to start playing a little bit with figures on the background. So shapes. So let's see how we can do that. Of course, when you have a strobe like this one, you can tilt the head. That's nice. So now it's aimed that way. So let me see. If I now move it really close to the wall, and the head will stay up, I actually have something that I can play with. So let's turn the head down this way, really close to the wall. Aim it up. Oops. Okay, it doesn't want to do what I want, so I'm gonna help it a little bit. There we go. And we're gonna bend the light literally to form that I like. It's like working with clay. Like my inner child is awakening. There we go. According to Enoweek, that doesn't take a lot. Okay, so let's see what we can do now. Okay, look a little bit more that way. Very nice. Now I start out with a totally black background because I took away the light from the background completely. So you have a really high contrast image. Let's play a little bit with, do you know Rembrandt? Yeah. Really? He's dead already. How can you know him? Yeah, very lame joke. Look all the way over there. Very nice. A little bit back and stop. And now keep your eyes here. Let's see if we can create something with a little bit of a Rembrandt triangle. So there comes the image. That's pretty nice. Now remember how you post. And now we're going to add a little bit of light on the background. So I'm just going to aim my light back on the background. But just switching a little bit of the point towards the background. Now as you can see, we have light on the background. Now let's say you have a little bit too much light, or you want that figure in. So just start bending that flash bender. There we go, and now we have a little bit more light around her shoulder area, if I'm correct. There we go. Now let's say you want that light a little bit more on her face. Then you just open this one up and close this one down. Now one thing, you will never ever be able to recreate exactly the same look again. But that's the fun part, it's always different. And now we have that really nice light on her face and still a very, very dark background. Let me see if it comes in. Really nice. Of course, you can also shoot against it. Can you look down a little bit? That way down. That's nice. But now I only have that high contrast look. And let's say that I want a little bit more light on her face. The only thing I have to do is now move my strobe, but I keep the same shape. I'm gonna place it here. Really nice. Look that way, and with your eyes here. Eyes here. Perfect. Chin up just a little bit. Eyes straight ahead. And you can see that we're now really tailor-making that light. It does exactly what I want to do. And without the flash bender, that's incredibly difficult because you don't have a flag that you can just move around. It's gone or it's there, and you can't create anything else. So that's the Silvery flash bender. But they also have something else that's really nice, and that's called the grid. So let's take the grid, and we're going to turn this one off. There we go. Take that one out. And here we have the grid. Now, if Enoweek can close in on this. Let's take this one out. Now, this is what they call the grid modifier. And Daisy, can you go full screen for this one? There we go. Now, inside the grid modifier, you actually have grids. Of course, because it's called the grid. Actually, it's called the snoot, I believe. But I don't know, I always call it the grid. This is one of the grids. Now, this is the thinnest one, but they also have a thicker one. Enoweek, do you have that one handy, maybe? So let me see where they put it. And They are looking for the thicker grit. And the fun part is there are two different grits. So you have the thinner one and you have a thicker one. And the nice thing is you can use the thinner one, you can use the thicker one, but you can also put them together and really get a nice narrow beam of light. So Anouk is running with the thicker one. This is the thicker one. And now the nice thing is if I look straight through it, you can probably now see my eye. And as soon as I move this around, you can't anymore. Now, if I do the same thing with this one, you will see that you can look through way longer. So this is how it steers the light. So this one is a little bit too big for now. So I'll put that in my pocket. Maybe I'm going to need it later. And let's put this one in. And it just slides in very easily. If, of course, you do it correctly. Because there are little side knobs, and you make sure that it just slides in correctly. Okay, just make sure that it fits over the whole head of your strobe. It will fit most strobes. There we go. Okay, and just aim it at our model. Now, the same trick goes with the other ones. Can you look through the grid?
No.
But don't ask it now, because it's not on the right position yet. So I have to raise my bar. Raise my strobe. So I really want that nice pinpointing light on her. There we go. Turn it on. Can you look straight through the grid now? There we go. It's that easy. Okay, it's also on channel A, of course. And let's take the light meter. Now with grids, you have to make sure that you meter very, very carefully. You have to make sure that you meter exactly through the grid, meaning aim it at her eyes. Now the problem is, when you aim it at her eyes, what is the problem, guys? You're hitting her eye. So what I always ask my model to do when we do stuff like this is, can you lean all the way back? Okay, and now I'm going to meter 8.09, that's F11, and now she actually leans forward again. So don't go like this, okay, model, boom, and she will have a black eye. So, or if she evades your maneuver, she will actually hit her head against the wall. So don't do that. So just ask her to lean back, meter, and then gone. Normally with strobes you can meter here, but with grids or Fresnels or whatever, you have that really tight beam, so you have to meter on her eyes. So I was on F11, ISO 200. Now, why am I shooting on ISO 200? Very, very simple. I want to save batteries on my strobes, and ISO 200 is pretty noise-free. So that's no problem at all. Okay, let's go to F11. Okay, first I will do a close-up. And now you can see that it doesn't really make sense to use a grid with this setup for the very simple reason I could do the same thing with zooming my bare strobe, right? Now watch this. I'm going to move a little bit further away. Can you do a really nice, powerful pose? Like that. Yes, there we go. Chin up. And now you can really see that grid working. Okay, can you turn around? And then very quickly, when I say yes, turn around and just twist your head around and do like the metal motion. You know what I mean with the metal motion? Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, go. Awesomeness! Can you do that again? 1, 2, 3, go. Nice! I normally always tell models, last time, one more time, last time, and you know why? That keeps the energy in, so one more time. And I'm actually going to shoot it now as soon as he stops, because I like the way, or not. I'm going to shoot it twice. Okay, as soon as you turned, stay that way. So don't move, because the strobe has to recycle. So first I'm going to capture the motion, and then I'm going to capture the still life. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Keep that away. Oh, I have to wait for the recycling. Just remove the hair a little bit from your eyes. Stop. That's nice. And now look really mean. And now scream without making sound. Oh, I have to wait for the beep. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, the beep will... there we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Awesome. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to retouch those images in Photoshop and see what we can get up with. Okay. So I talked about the light meter, right? Now the light meter is very important. That's why we made a video on the light meter. And I'm going to show you very quickly while we set up here the trailer for that video. Hey guys, my name is Doorhof and I'm the author of the book Mastering the Model Shoot. Now you guys really like the book because we're getting a lot of rave reviews on Amazon and every other online store. So that actually triggered us to make a video series about the book. Now in the first video I will tell you everything about the light meter. Now in digital photography I think the light meter is the one thing that confuses people a lot. Shouldn't I use the histogram, Frank? Isn't there a meter inside the camera? Where do I point the meter? Towards the pretty girl? Towards the camera? Towards the light source? Where? There's a lot of confusion out there. Now in this video I will give you in more than 70 minutes all the insights out about the light meter. Calibrating, using incident and reflective, using a white background, how to keep details in the black, how to trigger the meter, where to point the meter. You will see everything very easily explained, but you will also see photo shoots including our model Manon. This is one of the videos if you're slightly interested in the light meter, or if you already have a light meter and you want to know everything about it, get this video. It's called Mastering the Model Shoot, the light meter, and it's the first video in a whole series that we're going to release in connection to our book Mastering the Model Shoot, and it's available now from our website. Hey guys, my name is Doorhof and I'm the author of the book Mastering the Model Shoot. And you guys really like the book because we get a lot of emails with questions about topics in the book. And I thought, what is the best companion to a book? And that's video, right? Because then you can see what we're doing. So our first video was all about the light meter. The second video is all about a topic that's really difficult for a lot of photographers: shooting on location. Because let's be honest, there's so much going on. You have the location, you have the model, you have public. What gear do you bring? What stories do you want to tell? How do you shoot something? How do you... Well, there are so many questions. It's impossible to just tell you everything we're going to do in the video in a trailer. So we made a video while traveling the UK and Scotland with two models, Lena and Nadine. And I'm going to show you how to shoot with, for example, the Elangun Quadra. I'm going to show you how to shoot with small strobes, which modifiers to use, what a grid does, how to coach your model, and way more. And we even included 2 full retouch sessions. So if you want to shoot on location and you want to go from okay to wow, you want to master your model shoot, then watch this video, On Location, Mastering the Model Shoot, video 2. Okay guys, so I just showed you the videos or the trailers for the 2 videos in the Mastering the Model Shoot range, and I really like those videos, so make sure you check them out. And really we put a lot of effort in those videos to make sure that you guys learn everything. I'm not the kind of photographer that believes in smoke and mirrors. I will tell you exactly the way that I do it and the way that you can also recreate those shots. So check them out, and they're on my website www.frankdoorhof.com. Okay, now let's switch back to my desktop and show you some really cool editing tricks for our hard rock chick. And let's start out first with these. Now I'll do the same thing we did before, only now I shot the color checker. So now I can actually go into my color picker, select one of those. Now I hear you talking like, hey man, why don't you create a profile? Well, you can create profiles, and that's a shame, only in Lightroom. So in Capture One, I have to satisfy myself with, oh, that was a wrong expression. I have to make sure that I only make now I totally lost my track, sorry. So when I use Capture One, I have to make sure that I use my color checker as, well, a very nice gray card or white balance card, let's call it that. And then when I need really accurate colors, I will go into Lightroom and I will create a profile. Okay, so I did this, and now let's select all the images. And what I will now do is adjustments, copy and apply adjustments. And now all the images should have the correct color. Or at least the correct white balance, of course. Now I really like this shot, so I'm gonna select this one, but I'm not gonna retouch that online. Now, too much eye white. I love this one. This one is very nice, but I don't see enough catch lights in the eyes. This one is okay. This one is better, so I'm gonna remove that one. Too dark in her eyes. Love this one. You see that now the second eye actually, oh, no, don't do this, Frank. I try to just control my touchpad with my pens, so that's not a good idea. There we go. Let's go to 25, no, to 0 fit. Now you see the eye just barely behind the bridge of the nose. That's what I really like. So I like that one even better than the previous one. So let's take that as a 5-star. Now this one was too dark, so we're gonna take that one out. Now we changed the light, but I missed the catch lights. Here we have the catch lights back. No, I don't like that look. No, too much in front. No, that's okay, but not nice. There we go. Now this is awesome. Now let's see how that looks, if it's sharp enough. So we're gonna go to the loop. And that's pretty sharp. So I love this shot. Let's give it 5 stars. This one is a little bit too friendly. Nope, that's more like a goofy look. So we're gonna take that one out. This is black. This is okay. Black. This is nice, but not nice enough. I always want a little bit more from my models, and that's what she actually did after this. There we go, the big scream. So we're gonna use that one. Okay, let's go into rating. And let's go to the front. So now we selected those images. Now you can of course go into Photoshop and do all your retouching, but you can also do it in Lightroom, or in my case Capture One. And don't get me wrong, I still use Lightroom. Lightroom is where all my images live, stay, are in smart albums, where I do everything else, but just my raw converter of choice is Capture One. So let's not go into Photoshop, but just do it straight from Capture One. We go here to the, to this area, to the styles and presets. And like DxO Film Pack and Alien Skin, you can create your own looks. So in my case, I created some looks. And let's see which one I like for this shot. This screams black and white for me, and very, very aggressive. So let's just go through these. There we go, really love this one. The only thing is it's a little bit too harsh. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into here actually, and I'm gonna take out the clarity. That's a trucker going by who really likes my images, I guess. I don't know if that registered on my mic, but we had a lot of noise from a horn. So there we go. Let's see if we can add a little bit more vignetting, a little bit more shadows. There we go, really like this. Now always zoom in, because it can look nice on this, but 100% it can still be too rough. There we go, you see this is on the hairs, it's just a little bit too much sharpness. So let's take down the clarity a little bit more. No, that's better. I like it that way. Okay, let's see if we have something else to play with. That was what I was looking for. Now, when you change your hue, because it's black and white, you could say nothing happens, but actually when you play with your hue, with your Kelvins, excuse me, you can actually change the look of your image, as you can see here, and just create like a little bit more brightness or a little bit more dark. Same with the tints. So although it's black and white, don't skip those steps, because those are actually very, very nice to select this, to change the look. Okay, I like this. Now let's take this one into Photoshop and let's create something really nice with this. Now I shot it with the grid, so the bottom part is really dark. Now let's say you want a little bit more light in there. You can of course always do that by erasing the shadows. Now in this case I don't like that, so I'm gonna leave it that way. Now let's say you want a little bit more light on the hairs. In Photoshop Lightroom you can actually use something called the adjustment brush. In Capture One you have the same thing. You go here into your brush and you just add a new layer. And you select the brush and you just paint in a layer here, or an area you want to be affected. There we go. And let's say I just want a little bit more exposure on our hair, a little bit more contrast, and a little bit more shadow. And you see a before and after. It just gives it a little bit more pop. Okay, let's go into Photoshop. Command D. And now you will see that we have a problem over here, and we're going to fix that very, very quickly in Photoshop. And that also works for backgrounds. Okay, so I want to take this out. Now of course you could crop it, but I don't like that. So let's take the rectangular marquee tool and take a selection as close as possible to the shadow. You don't want to include the shadow itself, but close enough. And now you go into Edit, Transform, Scale. And you just drag the problem area out. There we go. And this works perfect with seamless backgrounds. Okay, so now I want to do the skin, but first I'm going to check if the skin needs any retouching. And again, Ingrid has really cool skin, so she doesn't need any retouching. Also not on her hands, so don't do it. Let's just whiten her teeth a little bit. Do you like whiter teeth? Yeah, she nods yes. So let's make a new layer so I can show you the difference very quickly. A duplicate layer. And go into your quick mask. Take your brush. And normally I would go to 200% for this. And I'll just select her teeth. Now this is messy with all the hair in front, but I just hope this works. There we go. Okay, so we made a perfect selection of her teeth. Not just good enough. Okay, there you go. Select inverse. And now the only thing you have to do is go into your hue and saturation and lower the saturation of her teeth and up the brightness, or in this case the lightness. And at this point my computer stops. Amazing. Again, it's one of those days, I guess. Okay, let's see what's going on. Okay, let's see if we can force Photoshop to quit. Okay. I'm gonna do it again. So we're going to go into Photoshop with Command D. Okay, 200%. Quick selection. Because there's more ways to do it, of course. of course you can change the color of your brush to white and take away all the excess selection you took. Because I was a little bit too sloppy now. Okay, there we go. Press X to turn it back again to selecting. Okay, select inverse. Now the only thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna only lower the saturation and nothing else. There we go, and press OK. And now image adjustments, and I'm gonna use, not levels, I'm gonna use curves to bring back some of the brightness of her teeth. There we go. So you can do it with lightness, but you can also do it like this with curves. Again, I don't know why Photoshop crashed, that's not normal. And because I didn't do anything else yet on the photo, you can actually use your history brush and just go around her gums to make sure that you don't desaturate that too much. There we go. Same trick with the background, and then we can finish this image. Edit, transform scale, and just drag the problem area away. For this image we want, of course, a little bit more extreme, so I'm going to go into exposure 7. And let's give her that Instagrammed look, that really over the top retouched. That's a little bit too much. I actually like this, but I need a little bit more shadow detail. And don't blow out the highlights. And give her just a little bit more vibrance. There we go, and a before and after. I really love this. And there you go. So I'm going to flatten my image and just file close, and at that point it saved the files. And you see that a little bit of motion does a lot for a shot, and that's something that I really love to experiment with. Okay, so we're going to close down, but before we close down I still want to show you guys something, so bear with me. We're going to switch live cameras and I'm going to walk over to my big book. Now, what is the big book? The big book is the book I wrote called Mastering the Model Shoot. Now, almost everything we do this year with workshops and tours is all based on the book. Now, why is it based on the book? Very simple. At one point, Scott Kelby asked me, Frank, I want you to write a book. And I was going like, writing a book, right? Yeah. And I didn't want to write a book just about how to shoot a model very quickly. I wanted to write a book that literally goes from A to Z, meaning it will cover everything from retouching, location scouting, styling. You can name it, it's in the book. So if you are into model photography and you really want to get something that's a little bit different from a normal book out there that just shows you lighting diagrams, and there are lighting diagrams in here, no problem at all, more than enough. But there are way more tips in here than you find in a normal book. And it's really my experience I share with you guys. I hold nothing back. So check out Mastering the Model Shoot, the book. It's available on Amazon and on many, many different other stores. And it's actually translated into Chinese, traditional Chinese, Czech, and of course, the original is in English. So make sure to check it out online. Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, whatever. And we'll see you next time. And Anne-Week, when is the next digital classroom?
In January.
In January. We're going to skip December?
Not sure yet.
Not sure yet.
Maybe there's a surprise.
Maybe there's a surprise in December. We'll let you guys know. And of course, in between, we'll do the little Q&A and tips from Digital Classroom, which you are already enjoying a lot, I hear from people. So that will be something we were doing in the past. So I will tell Daisy now to stop the stream and stop the recording. And I will see you guys next time. I'm Frank. Thank you very much for watching.